Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Take a look around you. Right now, chances are you can spot at least 5 things made of plastic without even moving. Your phone case, the pen on your desk, the bottle of water you just finished. It's the miracle material that defined a century and the curse that now chokes our planet. We produce over 400 million tons of it every year, and a terrifying amount of that ends up in our oceans, our soil, and even our bodies. We see the images of sea turtles tangled in six-pack rings and whales with stomachs full of plastic bags, and we feel a mix of guilt and helplessness. But what if we're looking at the problem all wrong? What if the solution isn't to get rid of plastic, but to change its fundamental nature? What if, with a single scientific breakthrough, every plastic bag, every bottle, every piece of packaging could become a meal? Imagine a world not where we clean our oceans, but where we eat them clean. A world where a discarded water bottle is a snack for a hungry child. It sounds like science fiction, a utopian dream. But as we'll explore today, this simple change could rewrite the rules of our civilization, solving one of our greatest crises while potentially creating a nightmare we can't even begin to imagine. Let's start with the most immediate, most visible change: the Great Global Cleanup. In our world, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a floating continent of trash twice the size of Texas. It's a toxic soup of microplastics, fishing nets, and consumer waste that kills over 1 million marine animals annually. Now, picture this alternate reality. A specialized fleet of ships isn't scooping up trash to be landfilled. They're harvesting it. The nets they pull from the water are brimming not with waste, but with a raw food source. This isn't just a fantasy. The science behind it would have to be revolutionary. We'd be talking about a new class of polymers. Let's call them biocompatible polymers, or nutriplastics. Scientists would have had to crack the code of creating long-chain molecules that provide the durability and versatility of traditional plastics like polyethylene or polypropylene, but are designed to be broken down by the enzymes in a typical mammalian digestive system. Think of it like starch or cellulose. Both are polymers made of glucose units, but the way they are linked together determines if we can digest them. Our bodies have the enzyme amylase to break down the alpha linkages in starch, but not the beta linkages in cellulose, which is why we can eat a potato but not a tree. The creators of edible plastic would have engineered similar digestible molecular bonds. The raw material might still be derived from petroleum, or more likely, from biosources like corn, algae, or engineered yeast to make it truly sustainable. The result: a plastic bottle that holds your water perfectly, but once you drink it, you can simply eat the bottle. It might have the texture of a fruit leather or a hard cracker, perhaps with a neutral, slightly sweet taste. Landfills, those vast, stinking monuments to our throwaway culture, would begin to shrink. Instead of burying our waste, we'd be processing it in industrial food facilities. Nearly 80% of plastic that currently ends up in landfills or the natural environment would be diverted into a new stream of the global food supply. The very concept of litter would change. Candy wrapper dropped on the street is no longer an eyesore. It's a free-range calorie, quickly consumed by birds, stray dogs, or even people. Our oceans, rivers, and forests would, within a generation, begin to return to a state of cleanliness unseen since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. This revolution wouldn't just clean the planet, it would completely reshape the global economy. Think of the corporate giants of today. Companies like Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Nestlé, and Unilever are already dominant players in the food and beverage industry, but they are also some of the world's largest plastic polluters. In this new world, that duality vanishes. Their packaging division becomes their food production division. A bottle of soda is now a combination product, the drink and the edible container. Marketing would be insane. Buy our new cola, now with a vitamin C-infused lemon-flavored bottle. The multi-trillion-dollar packaging industry would merge with the multi-trillion-dollar food industry. New professions would spring up overnight. You'd have polymer chefs or packaging flavorists, whose entire job is to design the taste, texture, and nutritional profile of a plastic bag. Would you like your chip bag to be savory and salt-flavored, or a neutral palate cleanser? Does the shrink wrap on your steak get baked into an edible, savory crust? The possibilities are endless. Waste management, as we know it, would become obsolete. The billions of dollars cities spend on garbage collection, landfill management, and recycling programs would be freed up, potentially reinvested into public services. However, this new economy would create its own massive challenges. A new regulatory body, perhaps a fusion of the FDA and the EPA, would be needed to oversee the safety of these new foods. Is the red dye in this edible plastic bag carcinogenic? What's the caloric content of a standard grocery bag? This leads to a fundamental shift in our relationship with materials. The cost of a product would now be inextricably linked to its packaging's nutritional value. Cheap product might come in a filler, plastic safe to eat, but offering zero nutritional value, like eating cardboard. A premium organic product, however, might come in a fortified plastic container, infused with vitamins, minerals, and protein. This would create a new and terrifying form of social stratification. Imagine a world where the poor subsist on a diet of cheap processed food and the low-grade, tasteless plastic containers they come in, while the wealthy dine on gourmet meals and their nutrient-rich, flavor-engineered packaging. The phrase, "let them eat cake," could be replaced with, "let them eat their packaging." And this brings us to the dark side of this edible revolution, the profound and disturbing consequences for human health and society. For generations, we have been taught that plastic is sterile, artificial, and unequivocally not food. How would the human psyche adapt to this change? The first generation would likely be deeply hesitant, plagued by a psychological gag reflex at the thought of chewing on a bottle cap. But children born into this world would know nothing different. For them, eating the wrapper would be as natural as eating the candy bar inside it. This could lead to a fundamental dissociation from the concept of what is natural and what is synthetic. If we can eat plastic, what can't we eat? The health implications are staggering. Even if these nutriplastics are designed to be perfectly digestible and non-toxic, the potential for long-term, unforeseen consequences is enormous. We are only just beginning to understand the complex interplay between our gut microbiome and overall health. How would trillions of gut bacteria react to a constant influx of these novel, man-made polymers? Could lead to new types of allergies, autoimmune disorders, or metabolic syndromes. The concept of junk food would take on a whole new meaning. We could see an epidemic of obesity and malnutrition on an unprecedented scale, as people fill their stomachs with calorically dense but nutritionally empty plastics. Imagine fast food chains offering a meal that consists of a burger, fries, and the entire edible tray, wrapper, and cup it's served in, delivering a 5,000-calorie bomb in a single sitting. The temptation for overconsumption would be built into every single product. There could be addictions to specific additives or flavorings used in the plastics, creating a new public health crisis. This new food source would also drastically alter the delicate balance of Earth's ecosystems. While we might celebrate cleaner oceans, we must ask, what happens when the entire animal kingdom starts eating our trash? Animals are driven by instinct and opportunity. A deer foraging in the woods would no longer ignore a plastic bag. It would see it as a potential food source. Fish would swarm around discarded packaging in the ocean. This could have catastrophic ripple effects. If the base of the food chain, from krill to insects, begins consuming microplastics, even edible ones, how do those synthetic compounds concentrate as they move up the food chain? A fish eats the plastic, a seal eats the fish, a polar bear eats the seal. What is the cumulative dose of these polymers in an apex predator? It could be harmless, or it could lead to sterilization, genetic mutations, or a slow, agonizing death. We could, in theory, try to control this. Scientists could design specific plastics to be digestible only by certain species. Imagine creating packaging that is nutritious for endangered sea turtles but mildly toxic to gulls, to help one species while controlling another. It could create nutrient blocks for starving animals in drought-stricken areas, disguised as common litter. We would be playing God on a planetary scale, with our grocery bags and water bottles as the tools. But nature is a system of unimaginable complexity, and our attempts to control it often backfire spectacularly. What if a species we consider a pest, like rats or cockroaches, adapts with incredible efficiency to this new, abundant food source? We could see population explosions that would make biblical plagues look tame. The very behaviors that define the animal kingdom, hunting, foraging, migration, could be irrevocably altered. A bear might learn that it's easier to raid a campsite for its high-calorie plastic containers than it is to fish for salmon. The line between the wild and the civilized world would blur, not because we encroached on their habitat, but because we littered it with a feast. So we are left with a paradox. A world free of plastic pollution, a world that has turned its greatest waste product into a source of sustenance. We solved the problem of hunger and the problem of waste in one brilliant stroke. We cleaned our planet. But what did we lose in the process? We created a world where food can be completely artificial, where social divides are baked into our packaging, and where the natural order of the entire global ecosystem is thrown into chaos. It's a world where a child in a developing nation might be saved from starvation by eating a plastic bag. But that same plastic bag might be part of a system that creates new, insidious forms of disease and ecological collapse. We would have traded a very visible, ugly problem for a dozen invisible, potentially far more dangerous ones. The solution to our plastic problem might not be a better plastic, but a better relationship with the things we make and the planet we call home. We stared into the abyss of our own waste, and in our desperate attempt to fix it, we may have turned ourselves and our entire world into something synthetic. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting videos. But as you throw away your next piece of plastic, ask yourself not just where it goes, but what it would mean if the only way to get rid of it was to take a bite.